Hi, welcome to the Albuquerque Museum. I'm Andrew Connors, the director here. We're here in the permanent collection exhibit called Common Ground, Art of New Mexico. And in honor of National Hispanic Heritage Month, we'd like to show you some of the highlights of the museum's permanent collection. But these are all on view on a regular basis. We'd like to take you down to the vault now so that you can explore some of the things that you can't ordinarily see. So let's go downstairs. Colcha embroidery is another art form that has really flourished in New Mexico, both in revival forms in more recent years, but also in the 1800s, when artists would apply decorative motifs to the top of plain weave fabric, so that they would weave a large expanse of basically white wool and then embroider over the top of it with colored wool, which was very time-consuming, but it was easier to plan out your design if you didn't have to weave it all the way through the pattern. Colcha embroidery is typified in the older pieces, such as this embroidered bedspread, probably from the 1865 to 1875 period. It's typified by a solid sheet of that embroidered wool on the top surface. So the embroiderer would try to save as much wool on the back by simply ticking the wool through and bringing it back over the front. And you can see on the back here how each one of the pieces of wool was just ticked through and then brought back to the front surface. For these long stitches, the colored wool would be laid over the surface, and then another stitch would go over the top of it to hold it down so that you didn't get snags out of the wool. But spectacular, mostly floral, natural motifs, sometimes geometric motifs, were really celebrated in these brilliant 19th century Colcha embroideries. Contemporary artist Julia Gomez created this spectacular Colcha embroidery, which won the Best of Show at Spanish Market in 2010. Julia is so traditional in her use of natural motifs, but she takes it to a whole new level in bringing life and vitality to the flying golondrinas, the swallows, that are the tribute and the namesake for this textile. But she also shows pomegranate blossoms coming from Spain and throughout the Mediterranean area, as well as a combination of a variety of local plants from New Mexico. So she's bringing the world together in a Colcha embroidery like this. The other thing that's so wonderful about Julia is that she really takes it to heart, that conservation of materials. So on the back side of her Colcha, you can see how very little wool is wasted on the back. It's all facing on the front of the textile. Julia is a true master artist, and she's become a major teacher and mentor for subsequent generations of Colcha embroiderers. In the 1970s, a group of artists decided that they wanted to revive the Colcha stitching tradition. And so they gathered in the community of Villanueva on the Pecos Valley. And they decided that they were going to tell the history of the community of Villanueva in pictorial Colcha embroideries. So while this is not part of the more than 200-foot-long Colcha embroidery, it comes out of that same tradition. This image was stitched in 1982, and it depicts a story, the story of harvesting apples using that long stick with the little basket at the top of it. And so this is a wonderful transition from the natural forms, more stylized forms of early colcha into really storytelling and pictorial elements. I love this image of the farmer there out in his orchard harvesting the apples while some are falling down onto the ground, and he's got a full basket of them. But again, it's done in the traditional colcha style, but here the sabanilla, or the background fabric, is not hand woven and it's not made out of wool. It's a linen fabric, commercially produced fabric, which would be easy to purchase in the 1980s, and then you could really focus on the colcha embroidery itself. But I love this story of El Escritor harvesting his apples in the fall in northern New Mexico.